What percentage of them would you say actually know Hebrew?
Oh, most Israelites have learned a couple phrases during their time in the religion. The longer they're in it, a lot of times the more phrases they know. The problem is if they're of the one West variety, that's the guys who are often on the corner. They usually know a version of Hebrew that is not standard. That's the nice way to put it. They call it Lashon Kodash. And for example, instead of saying Israel or Yisrael, they'll say Yasharallah. So sometimes you have to know a little bit of Hebrew to know what they're actually trying to say with their unique vowel system that Ariyah or Abba Bivens invented sometime in the middle of the 20th century. So that's like not, it's like, do you know Hebrew if you know Lashon Kodash? Not really. Now, if you're talking about be able to speak Hebrew, that's a very small percentage. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can say some people that I would know. Zion Lex has some facility with the Hebrew language. Divine Prospect has some facility with the Hebrew language. A lot of times the more Old Testament only guys, they would tend to a lot of times be more knowledgeable about Hebrew than the guys who embrace elements of the New Testament. And some of the camps, Corey, don't believe that knowing Hebrew is actually important. So IUIC says, hey, we speak English. Israel of God says we speak English. I'm not saying that they never discuss a Hebrew word, but I'm saying by and large their stance is most of our people who are in captivity speak English, so we're not going to spend a bunch of time learning Hebrew. Some of them even get into gematria, which is sort of a mystical, symbolic way of looking at the Hebrew letters having meanings, and that's a little interesting to see that. But it's not a lot who know Hebrew. But then again, it's probably not a lot of Christians who know Hebrew, right? You know, so we'll try to be fair with that. But more Hebrew Israelites bluff that they do than more Christians bluff that they do. You see what I'm saying?
I've got two videos, and I'm actually kind of combining the two. I took them down. I'm kind of combining the two. And one came on, and I asked him, I said, hey, well, you're Hebrew Israelite, and the title Hebrew is in your name, so do you know Hebrew? Because we were in Genesis 12, and the Bible says that in him or through him, all the families of the earth. And so I'm asking him, does he know a little bit of Hebrew? Right. Does he know Hebrew? He says, oh, yeah, sure, I know Hebrew, just as confidently. And so I said, well, what does Kol Mishpachah mean? And he said, well, I'm not sure. He said, Kol Mishpachah? I said, yeah, you just repeated it. What does it mean? He says, well, I don't know. Can you repeat that again? And I said, you just told me you knew Hebrew. Do you know? Well, not a lot. I only know a little bit. Okay. Do you know what Kol means? Oh, yeah. What does it mean? He didn't know. So, well, okay. And I wasn't going to hammer him on it, but it's just that you lied about it. You could have told me you didn't. I could have explained this is what this means. And this literally means not just Israel or Abraham's physical lineage. And so it's like, well, don't say you are something or know something. That's fine, whether you are Christian or Hebrew Israelite. But I think I've met one who knew a tad bit. And so, okay, well, because sometimes it would help in some of the way that you guys, especially when we get to the whole issue of the color black, like what's the guy's name? Bishop Nathaniel on Jason Whitlock's. He just kept going over, black this, black. We covered it the other day and just showed guys there are three different words in Hebrew that speak of this word, and they all don't mean the actual color. And so I was just wondering what percentage have you had many occasions where some of them have went back and forth with you and try to utilize Hebrew?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, with Zion Lex, but even though I went to seminary, I was around and have access to people who were experts at Hebrew. You'll never find a video where I'm like, I know Hebrew, because even having digital tools and access to people doesn't really mean you know it. So I don't front like I do. You know what I mean? Just like what you said. We just speak the truth about that. But I've had Hebrew Israelites who will try to snow you sometimes with Hebrew, and sometimes it takes me a little while, but I can check up all their claims on Hebrew. and not always, but frequently they're incorrect in regards to some of their claims about the Hebrew. So I've done things like I'll talk to Michael Brown about something when my buddy Jeff Cran was still alive. I talked to him. I have a guy that I went to seminary with that's an Old Testament professor, a number of other people, and then I have some language tools. And it takes me a while, but I can track down the claim, and it's not always accurate. But there's even guys who claim that they've translated new versions of the Bible. And with some of them, what they've essentially done is taken the King James Version and just inserted some of their phrases that they like instead of the English phrases at certain points. They really haven't translated anything when they've done that. Some of them have done that. They really haven't translated a new edition of the Bible. They've sort of done a search find and then replaced some key words, you know. But that's not to say that they don't know any Hebrew. So there are some guys who do know, you know, hey, there's some Jehovah's Witnesses that know Hebrew, some Mormons who know Hebrew. So even just knowing the language, of course, you know, as I'm just talking to the audience, wouldn't make you necessarily right about a claim or wrong about a claim. And some things are based upon your previous theological. Like sometimes things go one of two ways, you know, they can go different ways. And some of the answers are based upon other passages that you understand in a certain way. So there is some art to the interpretation of biblical languages as well. But usually it's a bluff, but I don't make a strong point about arguing about Hebrew minutia with them. Unless that's what they want to do, then I'll say, well, let's get on someone who can check you and let's find out. But don't get caught down in that, everybody. Don't get caught up in the Hebrew talk if you talk with a Hebrew Israelite, if you can help it.
Okay.